Right, welcome to this live call. This will be with Ed. Ed is the March Madness 2024 winner with his great performance on Summertime. Here's Ed's submission. Highly recommended you check it out. It's on School on the fellowship group. And today we're going to have Ed on a call with us for a general Q&A about how to improve his playing. So let's get going. So I got your 3 questions on School. You had your articulation, playing looser, and the task, maybe prioritization. Did you want to start with any of those? Get us started with your
You
main?
know, it's funny because yesterday I was working on my All the Things You Are challenge, which I have like a love-hate relationship with because I wind up kind of really focusing on it and trying to get something to a quote unquote performance level drives me a little bit crazy. And I said to myself, how good of a guitarist could I really be if I can't play this thing all the way through without driving myself crazy? And your voice came into my head in a good way, um, because I started. You talk a lot when talking about regular soloing about anticipating where you're going as opposed to being where you are. And I said, I don't think that way when I'm doing a solo chord melody, not just but I imagine it's the same thing. And this is one of my, like, I'm not thinking where I'm headed when I'm doing my solo chord melody. I'm just sort of up, I'm sort of locked in to what I'm doing here. And then all of a sudden I go, where am I going?
Got it.
And I think that's one big issue
Okay.
that I have. And I
Uh,
think that also that's part of the looseness that I'm looking for, and it's part of the wanting to have more fun instead of just being uptight about what I'm doing. So I'll let you speak about that now.
no, that's great. So the way you phrase the questions, the last one was like the prioritization routine, and then the second one was more like looser, more fun. I think it's sort of addressing the same issue, but I have a question follow-up for you first. When you say
Yes.
love, hate, do you mean all the things or I mean love,
Yes.
hate? Okay, the song.
The chat, no, the chat. I have a love hate with the guitar for sure, but that's a bigger topic. But the monthly challenges, because what I wind up doing is I become obsessed and I focus on it and I want to get something really. By the way, so I quickly read this little chord and melody thing from you today, which was like, don't try to make some tremendously complicated chord melody solo. That sort of struck a nerve. Um, and then I want to get it to some kind of performance level, and then I just keep playing it until I get it all the way through without making a mistake. And I'm record, delete, record, delete, record, delete, and I, it's like I go crazy. And then I also, and this is to the last question, which is I sort of stop everything else I'm doing.
Right. That's the thing. Okay. Wow, lots to unpack. First off, I will start by politely disagreeing with you because one of the things you did during that D minor, bar 5 of your Summertime, you go past beep, 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 beep,
Yes, yes,
that
yes,
lick.
yes,
So
yes.
you gotta hear where you're going to do that because it's sort
Mm.
of an extended chordal lick. So imagine if you took some of that, which you've already doing well, and I'll maybe post a link here, or we see the snippet. You have to have that kind of awareness of the future. How can you bring more of that into songs? So now I'm gonna go from tactical, and then I'll go bird's eye view on the prioritization.
Just one quick comment.
Mhm.
That's like part of my vocabulary.
Yes,
Like I'm very comfortable with that, 4/6 chord thing.
yeah. It's so in the spirit of being like extremely pedantic as a guitar instructor, it's like, well, you can do more of what works. Clearly, that
Yeah,
works for you because it sounded
yeah,
awesome. It
yeah.
sounded like in time, your sound was solid, your rhythm was solid, and you were really into it. So what if, and which brings me now, we're really like in the weeds. I'll go a bit less technical. how can we generalize this to other passages? And my means of doing this, which I'll grab the guitar on all the things, would be to work on a segment. So it's easy to take the first two chords because we've heard them a million times, and I'll, botch the introduction. Okay,
Right.
we're here. But then you go, can't get any simpler than that. But
Right.
if you did, so you got that.
Right.
So you're hearing in the future, but that little thing can get as full blown and arranged as your summertime or anywhere in between, from the single note melody all the way to amazing. And what I would recommend is that you can even film yourself, and instead of doing film, delete, film, delete, film, delete, you could film these different transitions. So you get this chord, you get the chord here, get the other chord there, you got the bar line. So if you work up, not just that's a problem with I hear in shredders. They're like, the chord hits, right? And you've heard me say this in videos all the time, like bang, whatever, A minor, and it's like shred, and then band goes D minor, shred. So in jazz we go like, well, instead of being here and here, we go, my interest is here, and it's working on the transition between the two worlds. That's the leap that jazz musicians make, and the more blurred the lines in a good way, the better you're going to sound. So that's what you're talking about, in effect.
Yes.
Right. And if I get further in the arrangement, I can also do the same, like, like whatever. I'm just like buttering up a bit. I'm like, okay, C major into that C minor. So I could, for me, literally practice and just ignore the rest of the world and go, I'm going from C minor to C major. It goes against the whole, like, practice the whole thing and be in time. But once, put it this way, once you have something that's workable, that's at a certain level, then you can zone in and go, okay, let me take it apart and go microscopic on that passage, and then rehearse, right, in that microcosm. Then it locks in as part of your bigger arrangement. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, and I do that to some extent, and here's what happens to me. I'm playing the song, and I'll, even something that I'm fairly comfortable with, I'll just sort of goes, just like, it disappears from my head.
Yeah.
I don't know why, and maybe because I'm going to try working harder on sort of the anticipation, like where I'm headed as opposed to where I am.
Yes.
But I don't know why it happens. I don't know.
Repetition is the mother of memory. So when I get guys starting in my coaching, I go, 100 reps is the minimum. If you didn't do it 100 times, and you ask a question like, did you do it 100 times? No. Well, I'll see you in 50 times. Bye, Gary.
Yeah.
But check this out. What's interesting about your second and third question is satisfactorily psychologically. I think you can work up, say it's all the things because it's this current month challenge. You could work it up to a level that is satisfactorily, that it's in a certain state. It's, look it up online, maybe a link here or here, finished, not perfect. Finished, not perfect. So that's a cartoonist, a guy that draws stuff. He says it's better to have one thing that's finished rather than having 100 drafts lying around. Because the thing is, I finish it, and I'll look back at this thing in 6 months, and I'm not even going to be satisfied with it. So I'd rather just finish it off and just have a sense of closure. So if you create your all the things arrangement, you could say, well, it's in that state right now. It's that acceptance. It's the psychology of, 12-step programs. Like, I gotta admit that, right? You know the drill. I've done those too. And then maybe going in and with a relatively clear head, go, that's the thing I would like to improve. Maybe it's the bridge, which I keep forgetting to all the things, right? It's going to be...
Yeah, it's A-7 flat 5. Right.
Right, and then say, for today, I'm only going to work on that in the hopes that my already structured finish, not perfect, has like an infusion of that, without the hopes of, okay, now it's my new standard, it's got to be like this. It's not going to jump in from day to day. It's going to be that you have your thing, you already sound good, man. Like you got the phrasing, tone, the this, the that, like. But the fun aspect would be to accept the way it is and to bring slight changes to your arrangement, but ever so slightly over time. And if it doesn't crop up like the next day that you mentioned that you forgot, is probably more exposure, more repetition will
Yeah,
creep in. And these things will wind up being like your D minor past. You say it's part of my vocabulary.
right.
You'll just build more pieces of vocabulary over time because that's unfortunately the not unfortunately, but most of my teaching is like, guys, you gotta get the tunes down. But you have the tunes down, and then it's like, well, once you have 5, 10, 15, like you get enough tunes, then we may start to talk about vocabulary. Because now you have context. You have context. So that's sort of a vocabulary question. And how do you learn new vocabulary, say a language, Spanish, Japanese, whatever? So sheer exposure will be the answer. That's my 2
You
cents.
know, on the positive side, um, putting this type of focus on a song winds up expanding. I see how it winds up expanding my vocabulary for sure. I mean, just by doing this over and over again, I find little things and I find better ways to finger something and, certain chord movements. So, from that point of view, it's good. But that's why I say it's a love-hate
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, I get it. I have, well, maybe not with music. Well, I'll share that after, but about that vocabulary piece, the more songs you tackle, say you add onto that, you stepped out of a dream, out of nowhere, just friends, you'll maybe get back to your all the things or even your summertime and go, ah, what was I thinking? But these are very subtle, elusive things that are very personal to your playing. Like I could coach you all day and go bar by bar, Ed, do this, change that. I could like take you like a toddler, but the whole like discovery process is just, it's amazing. If you could
Yes.
frame it like this, like the more standards you tackle, the more they all influence each other. You do a couple of rhythm changes, you do a couple of bops, like, oh, look at that, stuff start to move. And then the other love-hate relationship topic for me is, as far as I recall, not once have I lost my temper or my cool about practicing something. I don't
Mm.
know why that is. I'm not very patient in life. Like you should see me driving. I'm nuts. Like I hate it. Like people drive too slow. Just the cyclist, whatever, right? Get off the way. But for this, I go like, like, look at that. And I was a teenager, and I would just like look at it, and there's been, when they say labor of love, I think that's why I wound up here and like working with you guys, and because as hard as I try, I'm never like, God, goddamn it, I don't have that. I've never
So
had it. So
so my love so we'll get psychological, right? So my love-hate relationship with guitar is I don't know that I've ever gotten angry. I don't get angry in general. I'm not that type of person, but it's I set the bar way too high for myself, and it's my frustration, and it's my always, and I can, yeah, I admit I compare myself to like someone like Joe Pass. I mean, I gave up comparing myself to Montgomery because I said, just put him away somewhere, you know, because it's ridiculous. And I'm not in that mode anywhere. Anyway, I'm more in a solo chord melody mode. And it's like, and I go, well, if I can't play as good as Joe Pass, why bother? And I know it's stupid, but that's my psychology. And I set the bar too high for myself. And I don't, that's part of my not letting myself enjoy it.
yeah. Oh, that's a life question too. I was listening to a podcast recently by one of the founders of a software company, whichever, and he does not set objectives in his company.
Interesting.
Jason Fried, look him up. Jason Fried,
Okay.
founder of Basecamp and such, been running companies like 20, 25 years, and his metric is over the past year profits, meaning
Yeah.
we have a pile of money. Is there more in the pile or not? And
Right.
then people go, are you nuts? Like, there's not objectives for this quarter. What if you hire me? Like, well, just come in, no objectives, no nothing, and just what? But he says, if we know what we want to build, we have cycles, we want to build cool things. So you build a chord melody arrangement's an example. But the analogy Jason Fried used was amazing. He said, if I want to run a mile, not like the 4-minute mile, not something like Olympic level, but just a 6-minute mile, and I give myself X amount of time to do it, whether it's 3 months or 6 months, and I wind up reaching my due date of January 1st, whatever, and I run it in 6:03, I'll be disappointed. While this number is like completely arbitrary, and it's in comparison to myself, but it's also in comparison to the standards. But if we had a different clock or different ways, if you had established run it in 6:05 and you wind up doing it in 6:03, then you're satisfied. But because you mislabeled that goal, it now brings disappointment.
Right.
So that's it really struck
Yeah.
a chord with me. It went like, oh, wow. So disappointment can only come from the setting of the bar, and that's
Right.
that's yours to make sense of course.
Right. So coming to this thing of not completing things and getting interrupted and not so for instance, when I first came to Florida this year, so when I'm up in New York, I get together once a week with one or two guys and we play.
Cool.
And so I'm focused a little bit more on tunes and soloing. So I came down and I go, okay, I'm gonna every week, once or twice a week, I'll take out the Strandberg and I'll do musical, and I'm just gonna work through tunes and I'm just gonna do my improvising and just simple, not worry, not make it. That lasts like maybe 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden I'm back into solo chord and melody, and then I'm trying this other, like not even jazz stuff, that sparks me. And I started working on a Richard Bona song that I love. It
Cool.
really came out. That one came out great. It's unusual. Um, but
Good, man.
have you ever heard Richard Bona's stuff, his African under his own name?
A little bit, but I'm a Metheny fan, so
It's really great stuff. Anyway, I listened to that a lot for a long time. So, but I just constantly interrupt myself in what I'm doing. I'm like, I got a book. I got a book. I'm going to write down my lessons. I did that for 2 months, and now I don't even open it up because things come along, and then the challenges come along, and now all of a sudden I'm interrupting everything I'm doing because of the challenges. Is that is it such a problem? Should I worry about it? You know,
all right, that's it for us. And Ed, thanks Ed for being on this call and for absolutely more free resources, courses, stuff, tabs, and also monthly challenges. Join the completely free for life Jazz Guitar Fellowship. Also, there's going to be a long cut edit of this video. If you want to watch it and have more insights into what Ed and I discussed, you have to come and join us for free on the school platform on the fellowship. My name is Mark from Jazz Guitar Lessons. I'll see you in the next video.